everyone. Welcome for our analytic Tableau user group, our February view. So what do we have today? Prasam will introduce the amazing speaker that we have for you today. But just like some word about the analytic Tableau user group, it's like his name mentioned, it's about analytics. And we try to have every month some topic for you that's either that is on desktop, on server, or even like on the cloud. It has to be about analytics and about Tableau. We have like obviously the QR code in order that if you want like to join on next 7, but I will bother you by email and also by message today in order to register to the next session. So who are we? We are 3 very passionate person. Prasam, that is with us today, is a data visualization coach. I have, yeah, he's saying hello. We have usually Shimdi also, but he's not, he couldn't make it this time. And myself, which I changed the wording for enjoying life. So I should have like a little QR code, please hire me. Yeah, but that's fine. So just some words, like a more detailed view about everyone. Do you want like to go to the next slide, please, press up? So yes, that is just about me. I have the honor to be an ambassador and a visionary. Here is like my blog post. And if you ever want to speak or just join the Data Plus Women Zurich group, please do so. You have the QR code to register. Then we have like a deeper presentation on Prasam or on Chinti, I don't know, Prasam, that's even better. Prasam is a Tableau visionary and social ambassador. He has been working with Tableau for around 3 years and is currently mentoring young professionals with his venture, This Dinner. I really love this word, Prasam. I think that it was very, very clever. And I think that with Prasam we share a lot of things, except partying. But food and eat, I am your woman, Prasam. And also we can watch anime together. And Chimney is a data viz manager at Postmedia. If you haven't seen his Tableau public profile, you should probably do so. It's amazing what he's doing. And yes, he started using Tableau in 2020. So what a progression, I would say. Yeah, for me, it's a real artist. So, and now I will stop speaking and I will let Prasam introduce the amazing speaker that we have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. So, I think, should I cover this? So, before we go ahead, some of the ground rules that you're already doing, you can interact with the audience using the chat section. If you have any questions, please put up in the Q&A. It will be easier for us to find those questions. And also, one rule is the most important rule is that you need to enjoy the session. It's being recorded and you will find it on YouTube as well. So don't don't feel so much trouble of taking notes and doing all those stuff. Okay, we have got it covered. So now I'm going to bring up our first speaker. So before that, okay, we have agenda as well. So first we have done this introduction and welcome by us. Then we have Emily, who is here with us. She's going to talk about how dashboard value adds value to you and your users. Then we have Zach. You know him as the Maverick as well. He is going to talk about fast, easy, and powerful overlays. And then we have Paula, who is going to talk about understanding and decoding Tableau workbooks with the Tableau Workbook Analyzer app. That's a really good one. And then at last, we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. So here we go with our amazing speakers right here. I'm going to introduce Emily Kund. Emily Kund is an analytics and accessibility consultant with experience in the public sector and high tech. She received her MBA from Cornick School of Business and Technology and is currently enrolled in the Master of Science Data Analytics program. So she has been learning, we can say, all together throughout her journey. And if you haven't checked out her posts on accessibility on LinkedIn, you should do that as well. And she's an advisor to the Data Leadership Collaborative, a volunteer with Junior League of Annapolis, and she's also the events director for the Data Visualization Society and is on the executive committee of the Next Level Patient Mentoring Program. At home, she's a mom of two teenagers, two pups, and wife of 20 years to Matthew. That I'll leave to her to introduce more about her. And she's going to talk about her presentation is all about how dashboard value adds value to you and your user. And I'll stop here and I'll hand it over to Emily. Please take the stage. Thank you so much. I'll stop sharing.
Yes, we can hear you well. So for anyone who has issue, please try to shun browser, deactivate VPN, or join with LinkedIn. We sadly don't have other solution for you. Please continue, Emily.
RFM, and that stands for recency, frequency, and monetary. This is a marketing methodology, and really the whole kind of the basis of it is it looks at freshness, it looks at visits, and it looks at, from a marketing perspective, the intention of a customer's spend or the power of the customer's spend. Bob, I will share a copy of this presentation after I finish chatting. So I took that, and one of the things that I thought was missing was audience. And I was like, because, you know, I think the audience is kind of important here. And so I wanted to add that into the methodology. So I did, because I created it so I could do it. And while I go through this methodology, I want you to take the pieces that will work for you and just know that this is what I've used. These are my recommendations. But you know your work, your business better than I do. So take what you need and leave the rest. All right. So now we can go to the farm. Again, standing for frequency, audience, recency, and monetary. I took that marketing methodology and just adapted it for the work we had. Now, before we really get into farm, I want to also share, yes, you can take what you need and leave the rest, but you can make this as high level or as detailed or complex as you need. And it really just depends on the rigor that you need in your organization. RFM starts as a high level, like you score. The way the RFM works is that you'll score from like a 1 to 5 on whatever the measure is. You can take that approach with ARM as well, but you can really make it what you need. So I have a couple of examples here. An example of being high level about this is, let's say for recency. Well, you know, it's equal to what we thought it was going to be. And so that can be part of your calculus. And then an example of something that's more detailed is perhaps a 3-month rolling average for the number of times viewed instead of maybe a snapshot. And if you wanted to get even more detailed or more complex, you could analyze the frequency of the data for your universe of dashboards, then bucket it into a methodology that makes sense for you, and then associate a risk level or a value level with where your dashboard falls in the bucket of views. And so this, I believe, is really scalable based on what you need. So if I were doing this farm methodology for my own portfolio of work, I might do something that's more along the lines of a high level or more detailed, unless my managers really need this detailed or complex analysis. I would do something like that for renewal. So just to give you some context and how it could be used as well. So when it comes to frequency, there's a couple of questions. So when I say lightweight, I really wanted this to be lightweight because if you can do this on a regular basis, let's say annually, and it doesn't take you much time, by the time it comes for renewal, you have the artifacts that somebody in your center of excellence, your admin team will want, and you're going to be able to provide that. And so it's not going to be a big lift on your time. That was one of the issues that I ran into, was that, you know, people were having to dig for documentation or go ask somebody who had worked on this 2 years ago. So when you have it at the ready, it's less time that you need to provide it to whomever needs it. So how many times on average has the dashboard been viewed? That's in Admin Insights. If the users frequently visited the dashboard, then the next question is, why are they visiting it? Is it because it's an integral part of their day? Or are they confused and they're trying to figure it out until they kind of give up? And this information can come from feedback conversations, so user interviews, and it may come from initial documentation if you have that, if that's part of your process. When it comes to the audience, it's really who is the audience comprised of. You can get this from, I think it's the TS user events table. And then you can also, if you have access to this data, join it up with HR data so that you understand John Smith is not just a John Smith, he's also the Executive Vice President of Revenue Intelligence, or whatever the case may be. And then overall, does the visualization meet the audience needs? Why was it developed? And when was the last time changes were made as a result of the audience request? And so you can use this from a 1 to 5 scale, or you can use actual data points if you have access to them. So if thinking about it, if I use high, moderate, and low, then as a way of identifying value for each one of these, let's say a decision maker, that's a high value. Others in the intended or the target audience, that might be moderate value. If they're outside of the intended audience, that could be low value. And if nobody's using it, that's no value. And so that's a suggestion for how you could set up the value. But again, do what makes sense for you. Then when it comes to recency, this is the freshness. So when was the last time on average that the dashboard or visualization was accessed? Was it within 45 days, 46 to 90? You know, you can bucket what makes sense for you and what makes sense relative to stale content guidelines if you have those. But you also need to account for any seasonality. And if you have it, what the intention was when it was developed. So if the intention was that it was going to be developed quarterly, then and it's being reviewed every 43, 47 days, well, that seems appropriate. That seems like people are using it as intended, and that's, to me, high value. But if you don't account for seasonality, then you could see something like 180, 270, 360 days, and your first thought might be, wow, people don't really value this. But if it's performance management data and you're on an annual performance management cycle, well, that makes sense that that dashboard isn't going to be viewed monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually, just again, depending on the seasonality of that work. So that's why it's really important to also account for that viewer behavior. And then we get to monetary. So this is a very, very slimmed down version of what you might see in a business value book process. And it's really just identifying kind of a before and after, and then looking at the difference between the two, but then I take it a little further. So I have 4 major categories here. So how long would it have taken you if you used a different tool, whether that's manual, Excel, Power BI, ClickView, whatever the thing is? How long did it take you before doing the data cleaning and data prep step? How long did it take doing reporting and analysis? How long does it take to share out with your stakeholders? And I don't explicitly say this in here, but this also includes any knowledge management information that you would convey. And then how long does it take for distribution? How long does it take you to add to PowerPoint, post to Slack, or however you distribute it? And then, and so you can type the hours associated with each one of these 4 categories. And then look at the after. How long does it take you currently with Tableau? And you can go through that assessment. Does it need to be like to the quarter hour accurate? Not necessarily. I wouldn't do that. I think if you get it in the ballpark, that's fine. But again, that would be for me. Really depends on how accurate you do need this. So then after you consider that, then calculate an estimate. And you can consider ranking the differences. And so I'll go through that in a second. So like, what's the difference between these two? So I just talked through this data cleaning, reporting, analysis. I've got my hours from before, I've got my hours after, and then I've calculated a difference. And in this particular case, I come up with 56 hours difference. You may not have access to the average salary of somebody, of an analyst doing this, this work. So you can just take the hours and say, okay, anything over 25 hours is a good value, anything over 100, whatever kind of makes sense for you. And then you can kind of bucket it based on how valuable each one of those hours are, or that grouping of hours are. And then you have a labor cost if you do have access to this information. So if I estimate that the average analyst spends, or I say analyst, I'm saying whoever's doing this work, $100,000 salary, generally, it's about 2,000 hours that we work in a year, maybe 2,080, just depending on your organization. So that's $50 an hour. So now if I multiply that out, I should get something like 2.6 thousand. And so let's round up to 3,000. So, okay, $3,000. So like, is $3,000 really a big deal? Well, it might be somebody's quarterly bonus, so that would be nice. But imagine that that is a good average cost savings for your work. Now, you could take that and kind of start extending that out. Let's say you're doing this for your organization, and let's pretend you have 200 dashboards, but you want to be conservative because you don't want to like overestimate. So let's just say a half, like this would apply to half the dashboards that you have. So that $3,000 that you've identified as a good estimate of, for your dashboards that you have in cost savings, for 100 dashboards, that's 300,000. Well, now 300,000 could buy 2 or 3 salaries. It could buy probably conference attendance to CDC for about 60 people, maybe, depending on where you come from. And then it could also buy additional tech. So, hey, you want that add-on? Maybe this helps build your case for it. So my point is that people will sometimes scoff at lower numbers like $3,000, but that 3,000 can turn into 30 or 300 or 3 million, just depending on how big your organization is. Now, I have a lot of text in some little speech bubbles there. And this is the person who's like, but Emily, wouldn't it be better to take a statistically valid sample of the work and obtain the average value and or the median value and extrapolate that out? Yeah, sure. The point is that this is flexible. So if you want to go through that process because you either want to or need to, totally cool, do that. The point is that you really can identify that value and the cost savings in this particular case and start adding it up to see what your contribution is from a savings perspective. And a lot of times that's where people will see a lot of benefit from their Tableau dashboards is on a cost savings side. And cost savings can improve the bottom line, the net income. So I'm not like totally poo-pooing it, but there's also the revenue generation side as well. So, it's important to look at the cost savings because it probably is the bigger pot of money saved. But revenue generation is also important to consider. So it's really cost savings plus income gives you your total monetary value. An example of revenue generating dashboards might be revenue intelligence, that white space or opportunity dashboards, your marketing dashboards, customer engagement or success dashboards. So if you're thinking about like, oh, which ones in my organization could be revenue generating, those might be some of the ones that you see in your organization. So I wanted to add that in because while it seems like that's common sense, I think sometimes we see more cost savings than income generation, and I wanted to make sure I covered it. All right, so now I've talked about the quantitative, now I've got the qualitative. And by the way, I used to be a bank examiner for about 18 years, and we had this thing called the allowance for loan and lease loss. And each bank would have to do this analysis. And you're not going to be surprised to find out that they have a quantitative piece where they use their own loan data. And then they had a qualitative piece of other items that might impact bad debt that just haven't shown up in the numbers yet. So I borrowed this idea from my bank examining days. All right, so business impact stories. This is data just in a different form, in my opinion, but it's also the storytelling aspect of the analysis. And business impact stories, what I love about them is that customers, the ones who are sharing these impacts with you, they should be advocates for you. I hesitate to say they will advocate for you because that doesn't always happen. So I want to hedge my bet a little there, but they should advocate for you. And so, you know, I just put a little thing in here of what could a business impact story be? It's as simple as an email. And in this email, it's around work put in for, a resource sharing dashboard. And the person shared that when a senior advisor would ask them for information, they'd say, I'll get back to you with it and I'll give it to you by end of week, or I'll give it to you tomorrow. And instead, with the dashboard, in a few clicks, they were able to give them what the metric is, and that person can walk away knowing the answer. And I think we've all had that experience with Tableau where it's like, instead of doing this, I was able to do it in 3 clicks and here we go. That's impact, and that is helpful to tell the story. So how can you collect these stories? I'm a big fan of feedback forms that you can link to your dashboards. You can also do it through user interviews, which I also am a big advocate for. And really, you can take a Google sheet, or I'm sorry, a Google form, if that's something you use, or type form, or whatever you have, and put together a simple feedback form. What do you like? What do you wish was better? Can you share how this has positively impacted you? Can I use this testimonial for internal documents or for sharing on our intranet site? Because that also helps show people the value of your work. I also am a fan of user interviews. I think you get so much out of them. And so I always recommend that people do them. Oops. Okay, so putting it together. So you've got your quantitative plus your qualitative, and then you've got kind of a holistic value. So basically, you're looking at your numbers, you associate a value with them. You can do something like a high, medium, low, or no indicator of value if you want to keep it kind of high level. The reason why I talk about that as much and not go into the nitty gritty is because I wanted this to be lightweight. I wanted the least amount of friction as possible, so that way I could get people to do it. Now, I didn't have the opportunity to implement this when I was at Red Hat, but this was the work that I was contemplating when I was going through this process. So I wanted it to be really lightweight, something that could be as easy as possible so that people could see the value. So you're going to do the number part, you're going to share your stories, the storytelling part, and document it. And I know, like, even for me, I don't love to do documentation, but I love the value of documentation. And it can be as simple as a memo or a spreadsheet. Do what makes sense. Like, you don't have to over document. So then, like, what happens if the results aren't glowing? Well, that has happened. So let's start off with the good. For good results, add it to your accomplishment report. This is, I used to call it an accomplishment report, but it's that brag report at the performance management time when you're telling all of the great stuff that you did. If you have a specific number because you've gone to that level of detail, divide it by your total comp and you can get an ROI. And that's super powerful. Share it with management or the decision makers. They want to hear about happy customers because they're able to then share the value of their broader organization. And here's why this is also important, because it also comes down to staffing. So if you can show that you're saving money or generating money, you're able to get the staff you need, you're able to get the additional tech, as I mentioned before, and that it just makes the process so much easier. All right, so like, what if you have not so great results? If they're low, you have an opportunity. I think the first two questions I would ask is it a quality issue or a quantity issue? And if it's a quality issue, so the quality of the dashboard isn't up to where it needs to be, then figure out what needs to be addressed and address it, if to the extent that you can. Is it an awareness issue? So maybe you don't have a great number of views because people didn't know about the dashboard. Well, that's an enablement opportunity where you can get out and do road shows, other marketing efforts like newsletters. The world is your oyster when it comes to that. And I had to hold back from making this an enablement talk, but there's opportunity there. And then finally, what if there's no value? I truly believe that you can still look and feel good even when there's no value. And here's why. I've led reporting and analytics teams before. I was part of a senior leadership team when it came to supervisory information. And so what I know to be true is that good managers, good leaders recognize when their staff, they appreciate when their staff can say, you know what, I don't know that there's a lot of value that's going to be gained if we continue to pour X number in for operations and maintenance or the maintenance of this dashboard. Instead, I think we can move these resources, or me as a resource, over to this other project that is high visibility, high value, whatever it is. Managers like self-starters. They like people who take initiative. And so by you identifying, hey, I think this work can be sunset. Now, obviously, this is not a decision you make in a vacuum. You're going to talk to your stakeholders. You're going to go through this analysis. And then you can come up with the conclusion of, yeah, this can be sunset. And instead of tying your value to that specific dashboard, which I have seen before, you can take that back and say, I have learned so much. Now let me apply it to this work over here. And that will serve your organization well and serves you well, again, with good management. In addition, oh, you know what? That's a duplicate slide there. Okay, so now it's time for some resources. So I have this RFM methodology explainer. Those are just, like, if you wanted some background on the RFM methodology. I know, John, all of our dashboards are our children and it's going to be hard to let them go. But at some point, you have a good cry and you push the baby bird out of the nest. So there's the methodology explainer. I also have sample lightweight value questions. So I'll try to click into those for you so that you can see. So I put these questions down, again, meant to be very simple, quick, and easy. A sample dashboard feedback form. Again, quick, easy. You can modify this if you don't have anything. But really helpful to get that information. And then don't forget about your Tableau admin insights. I loved them. It was a treasure trove of information, and also stale content dashboards. That's one of the first places I looked when I was looking at the suite of reports that I, as a product owner, had to start with to say, are people not using this? Are people using it or not? Is it showing up on stale content? If it is, that's giving me something to inquire about. I always look at data as the first step because the data invites the conversation. So here are some takeaways. Understanding the value of your work puts you in the driver's seat. It helps you support your performance. Think about the farm: frequency, audience, recency, and monetary. The fortune is in the feedback. It's in the follow-up. And you can still get a glow up even if the results are less than ideal. So I probably sped through this. I don't know. But if you have any questions, any thoughts, ideas, like this is just what I put together, but I'm so passionate about sharing it with others. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn. And that's it for me. Thank you. And I see that there's a question in the Q&A. So do you know where I can find examples on the feedback form within a Tableau dashboard? How can we get these slides? I will put the slides in the chat once I finish sharing. And then let me just go back real quick because I did mock something up. I took basically a random visualization that I did a while back. And I just added a little image that says provide feedback. And so at the bottom there, I'm inviting, that's the call to action. I'm inviting them to give the feedback. So when they click this, they can come to the dashboard feedback form. Personally, I prefer that, but you can also, and depending on where that fits in your templates or layouts that you have at work, I'm also a big fan of having just the envelope button where somebody can click that and send you an email. That's great for questions, but I do like my feedback to be more structured so that way I can really analyze it a bit better than just the free-form text. So that's what I have. I hope that answered your questions, and thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Emily. I think it was a great session because most of us have been, like me, I've been building dashboards, but getting onto the side where you are talking about resource planning and how you can plan it all up so that everything is efficiently done, that was really good to know. And I think there are great resources you shared with us as well. So thank you so much. Now, I'm going to introduce our next speaker right here, who is a famous podcaster as well. Am I right? Okay, so we have Zach Bowders. He's a data analyst and JLL. If you know JLL, it's like, what we can say? I'm not getting that word. It's a place where they fetch only ambassadors and visionaries like that. It's such a place, no? And okay, let's leave JLL. About Zach, he is passionate about data visualization and storytelling. I love his work and his memes as well on Twitter. And he's a 3 times Tableau visionary, 4 times Tableau ambassador, winner of 10 VOTDs and 2 Vizzy awards. In addition to his community work, Zach also hosts the famous Data Plus Love podcast, where he talks with data professionals about data viz and other things. It's not kind of a boring podcast, or I shouldn't say boring, but more of an informative podcast. But it's more about conversations about community as well as data visualization. Kind of interesting, and you should hear it like whenever, if you're driving. I do that very often. And today, he's not going to talk about his podcast. He's going to talk about fast, easy, and powerful overlays. So I'll hand over to him. No more jokes. So thanks so much, Zach, for being here.
My pleasure. No more jokes and no more nets. Okay, so rather than putting together a PowerPoint deck for you, I'm going to be doing some live tech demo, which is always the most thrilling thing to participate in. And it being a live tech demo, things will go wrong. And this is really a test of my mettle and how much I freak out when they go wrong. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with the concept of an overlay is an informative layer that you can display on top of a dashboard that can help give you some extra context or information. They're really helpful when you have dashboards that have maybe some complex things going on and you want to clue the users into more of what that is. Or if you have users that use dashboards very infrequently and you want a way to remind them of some of the contents of the dashboard so that every time they re-engage with it, it's not like the first time all over again. So there's a few different ways to do overlays in Tableau. Some of them involve using tools in addition to Tableau, and some of the more current, more sophisticated ones allow you to do it entirely in Tableau. There's benefits to each. I'm going to show you 3 different ways. I'm going to do one of them live, and we're going to dissect a couple of overlays that have been built by others. So I'm going to start off by sharing my screen, and God willing, I don't mess that part up because it's all going to go downhill from here. After that. So let's start off with some demos of what overlays can be. So right now I'm sharing my screen and I've got 3 different tabs open. I'm going to show you 3 different overlays that are available on Tableau Public. I'll put all these links in the chat so you can check them out yourself. This first one is by Ray Randall. See up here, he has created a click here for dashboard instructions, and he's got a nice exclamation point. I should note that all the overlays you're going to see today use collapsible containers and transparency. If you're unfamiliar with how those work, don't worry too much. I'm going to be showing you. But the gist of it is when you click on a collapsible containers icon, you can click to open it. So in this case, we've opened this overlay, which is covering the entire screen. And you can see that he has put some context here to show you the capabilities of each of these. And he has a little click icon. So this overlay was actually built using PowerPoint. You can tell because he has an extra icon here in the mix. That is one way you can build overlays. And one of the upsides of it is you have a lot of control and you can add a lot of shapes. You can kind of go nuts. And I will get to the downsides of doing it in PowerPoint in a little bit. So great job on this overlay here. It's a really useful way. And if you want to close it, you can close it. Sometimes, depending on the dashboard, you might want to have your overlay on by default when users come to it. So what you would do in that case is when you publish your Tableau dashboard, you would save it with the container opened. In other cases, you want to give them the option of popping the overlay open. So the second example is from former JLLer and Iron Viz contestant last year, as of today, Tableau visionary Brittany Rosenau. So Brittany was working on this back when she was at JLL, and one day she came to me and said, I just had a realization. I think you could use annotations to create overlays. If you're unfamiliar with annotations, annotations are a way of you basically marking up a specific visualization. So in a way, this is sort of a cheat and a hack, but it's a very clever one, and we'll be going into greater detail on this later. So this page she's created, she used that as her methodology. So she actually created a visualization with no meaningful data in it, and her collapsible containers here, when they open, are containing a data visualization with nothing and adding annotations to that. So you can actually see right there when I hover, that is the piece of information for this data visualization. Actually, I think she actually created a grid at first, which you'll see isn't actually necessary. It's actually even easier than that. So Brittany created 3 different examples of how you might be able to do overlays. And one of the cool things about annotations, like she's using here, it's one of the few things in Tableau that natively has the option for curviness. So most of the rest of your chart types, your containers, all of that are blocky. But with annotations, you are able to make curvy containers. So here she's using a combination of two different annotation types. One is annote point, which she's using to point to this. And this is annote area, where you're able to cover an entire area with a square or something. So she did 3 different flavors of it to show some options. And it was a really clever idea. And it was really cool that she came upon this, because we were using the previous method of PowerPoint at work previously. And it's a little bit of effort. And it also means you actually have to maintain a PowerPoint workbook somewhere with your overlays in it. And it means if you were to change the shape of the dashboard, you'd have to go back, change your PowerPoint overlay, upload the image back into Tableau to make sure it's current. Because this exists entirely in Tableau, let's say she moved this chart from here to here, she would just simply update her annotation within Tableau. So this solution is created entirely in Tableau. And at the time, we were super excited. Brittany had cracked the code. And then I later found out that Robert Rouse had actually done this a few years earlier. So we were kind of rediscovering the wheel. I say we, Brittany figured it out. We both just kind of ran away and did it that night because we were so excited. But kudos to Brittany. Like she really like jumped in with both feet and like figured this thing out. But as it is with Tableau sometimes, you might not know someone else has already done something similar. In this case, Robert Rouse shows a couple different examples of using overlays for annotations. And in this case, came up with a pretty sophisticated trick where you can have multiple sets of annotations that move over one page. So right here, we open our collapsible container, and using Tableau's paging function, he is able to cycle through multiple sets of annotations for the same page. So for example, if you didn't want to clutter the entire page up with a series of messages all at once, or maybe you have minimum space, or you're needing to progress through a series of ideas to explain how something works, this is a really good option for that, so that you can actually move through different notes. So now that I've shown you some examples out on Tableau Public, I'm going to open up Robert's workbook and talk about how some of these annotations are being done. I'm actually going to show you all 3 annotation types in one workbook. And I'm going to start with, I added my own page. It's a copy of one of his, and this is using the method of PowerPoint. So right now it's Robert's page, but instead of using his method, I went and I created an overlay in PowerPoint. And the works is, if you're unfamiliar with PowerPoint, it can actually export anything from a page as a transparent PNG. So the way I would typically do this is I would copy my dashboard page, copy my image, and paste it into PowerPoint. And what I did from there was I added a transparent pane over top of it. I added some notes because those were valuable, or, you know, for this example, they are at least. And then I'm like, great, I've got my overlay image, but I need to put my overlay into Tableau itself. So what I would do in that case is I send my my low overlay to the back. I temporarily delete the image. I do a Control A to select everything on the page, and I save it as a picture. You save it as a PNG file. So from there, what's happening when I open this overlay, it's displaying my transparent PNG on the page. So like I said, the upside of this is you have a lot of control. You can go crazy with your colors and shapes. If you have brand logos, you want to sit in a certain spot, you have control over all that. The downside is it's a little tedious. So if you're unfamiliar with collapsible containers, the way they work is like this. If you add either a horizontal or vertical container object to the page, you can just drag it on as floating, as you can see here. There, we got that. I'm going to go ahead and, just for the sake of, you know, you're seeing it, I'm going to make it a big bold color right now. And we're going to make this so it covers the entire page. So right now the dimensions of this workbook are 1000 by 800. I'm going to set this object to 1000 by 800. All right. So now this is the container that we are going to put our overlay inside of. So I like to make overlays have some sort of tone to them. You know, there's a lot of concerns about accessibility with workbooks and everything, and best practices. All those are things you should consider when doing this. This is just purely an example, so don't take this as like gospel. So I'm going to set it as gray for right now, and I'm also going to make it like let's say 60%. So you can see through to what's behind it, not actually losing what's on the page. But right now, this container is just sitting here. Next thing I want to do is I want my image from my PowerPoint to be in there. So I will drag a tiled image shape into that container, make it fit and center within this container. And I'm going to choose my overlay example PNG. And now you can see that it fits inside this container. Now there's some adjustments to be made. For example, the layout here came with a padding of 4 around it. I'll get rid of that so it conforms to the edges. And the last step I really need to do is make it so this container can appear and disappear. So that's where the collapsing container portion comes in. If you haven't done this with containers before, right now I'm actually clicked on the image. If I double click, I'm now clicked on the container. I go to options. I say add show and hide button, and it generates a little button for me. There's a lot of things you can do with this. You can use your own images. You can use text. You can even use Unicode characters. Unicode characters work very well, but I would test them on server to make sure they look exactly like you thought they did in desktop as well. So if I click and close that now, my overlay is closed. If I open it again, it is now open. So that was me recreating what was already here, but explaining to you how it works. So that's one way you can go about doing overlays. And like I said, the powerful part of it is you have a lot of control within PowerPoint, what you want to do. Maybe a little bit more than you do using annotations, but also it's risky because if you make changes, you then have to go back and update your PowerPoint files, and you also have to maintain them. PowerPoint's not the be all end all here. You could use any sort of drawing tool you want, but it is something to consider that you know that you have to maintain it somewhere. And also, if you hand this workbook off to someone else, they might not know how that was accomplished or how to fix it. So the next method to talk about is using annotations. So right now, he's using a show hide button with a collapsible container again. But this time you can see it looks quite different. When he opens it and closes it, we're getting these boxes with arrows pointing out different things on the page. So what is actually happening here is within this show and hide container is a chart. It's a chart with nothing. So he created a dummy chart just using quotes. So it actually contains no data within it. He used a polygon data type. So it's really whatever you do to create the dummy chart is up to you. Here's what I usually do when I'm creating a dummy chart. So with Brittany's version, you saw that we had those little dots on the page. What Brittany had done was create a data source that had dots all over it, because at the time the thought was, oh man, you can like make it point to the dots, but that's not actually necessary. And what Robert did kind of shows that. So what I'll do is I'll make up like average 1 or min 1 or some value. And then I'll do like a circle chart of some kind. I will make it tiny. I will make it invisible. And then after that, I'm mostly doing formatting things to remove all the lines from the page, all the colors from the page, all the very tedious stuff that you have to do in Tableau sometimes to strip away a lot of the native features that come on a chart. So I'm going to both my format lines and format borders to take off all my lines and borders. I'm hiding my headers, all the stuff to sort of make this not a chart anymore. So by title. Okay, so at this point, we've got nothing here. Also, I'm going to make the sheet not have any color. So right now, this does not have a single thing on it. What I'm going to do is, for the sake of my poor little dot of data out here, I'm going to say, hey, the overlay is on now. Okay, so I'm going to make that red because you're not going to miss that. We're going to make it Tableau semi-bold or the Taco Bell font, whatever we want to do there. Okay, so hey, the overlay is on now. So what Robert is doing is he has basically done that same thing. He has created a fake chart here. So if I actually click and remove Robert's chart, I can add in my chart. So the overlay is on now. So that's effectively what he's doing. And what he is doing within this, and that was for the example, once he has the fake chart on here, you can click on the chart, and I'm going to turn on some color on his chart so that you can see that it's there more evidently. Okay, so just so you know, there we go. We got the hint of gray. You know what? Let's not do gray. Let's get crazy. Let's do, like, I don't know, blue. Fine. So you can see that the overlay is on right now. And like we said, the overlay is a chart sitting inside a collapsible container. And because it's a chart, that means you can use Tableau's annotations, which is what all of these are. So if I click on one of these, I can say format, and you can see the different types of formatting that you can do with an annotation. So let's say I wanted a box around this one, like I did on my other example when I created my overlay back here. It's special because I put a box around it. What you could do is right click. See, right click, point to area. This thing is special. And you can create a box that surrounds an object if you want it there. So I could put this thing around if I wanted to. One thing about those annotations is you can control the shading of them. So if you don't want it to fill in, you can make it single-sided, four-sided. You can, let's see, you can make it round. So there we go. Let's try this. Very rounded. And again, this is the live tech demo aspect of this. So this is where everything goes off the rails. All right, let's try this. I'm going to click on his and make it rounded. There we go. Very rounded. Ta-da. The reason it's showing two different layers there is because he was actually using background annotations as well to make these fake containers that these are sitting inside. Because, like I said, Tableau does not come with rounded containers. If you want to annotate a specific point like he's doing here, you can right-click, go to Annotate Point. Hey, look at this. Annotations come formatted like this, but you're not limited to that. So what he did in his is he did a single edge. He did a background color. He did a darker line with an arrow. And you can actually make your borders the same color as your lines and that sort of thing. So you can make things that effectively look like they belong together. So remember, keep in mind accessibility for people with different forms of color blindness. Dyslexic people read stuff without serifs like this better than serif fonts. So think of stuff like that. But yeah, it's not terribly difficult to make objects on the page that point out the things you want. Also, one thing to always do is when your overlay is open, make sure there's something up pointing to your button that says, hey, this would be how you shut this thing down. So the last thing to look at in terms of overlays was Robert's really sophisticated overlay that advances when you click on it. So as you see, when you click here, it's cycling through multiple annotations, but they're not all on the page at the same time. So this part is a little bit trickier. So this, once again, is a chart like any other chart. But what Robert did here was he used a couple of Tableau features like paging, which is what this is, and used a parameter. So what he did was he created a parameter. So this is not a data source. It's just data that exists within the dashboard to allow him to do what he wanted to do. So he created a parameter with values 1 through 5. And then he created a field called step, which references those values. So he put this step up here on rows. So when you see this number advancing, that's the step number that's advancing to show that it's moving. He then put step on pages, and that's where he's able to do this so that each time the number changes, the whole chart is changing. It's only showing one at a time. So that's why the annotations are staying with that particular step. So as he moves forward, you're able to do multiple sets of annotations within a single space. So at the end of the day, those are the three main options I can think of how to accomplish an overlay. You can either make an image file that you then a collapsible container. You can make a fake chart and use annotations to create both blocks and texts on top of it to point out important things that you need to bring focus to. Or if you need a more in-depth tutorial, you can basically trick Tableau by creating a parameter with multiple data and then advance through those with different annotations on each one. So I know I covered a lot pretty quickly, and maybe the most important question is, do I need annotations? You might not, but if you do, it's really great to have some solutions in your pocket. And I particularly am leaning towards solution B right now. I use this quite a bit at work. It's a really easy way to create an annotation quickly, something that will stay within the workbook and can't be broken in that manner. And when someone else inherits it or something needs to change, all you have to do is open up that dummy visualization and change or remove the things that you need removed in order to make it work to the best of your interest. As you can see, you can do it while you're on the dashboard. You don't have to open up directly into the visualization. Are there any questions or anything now that I've run through all this?
Yes, we do have a few questions here. Okay, I'll start with. Let me just scroll down.
Yes, there is some question on the Q&A.
There's like 19 questions. Holy cow.
You have to sort them out from like 7 p.m. Pick the one you want. I don't have a voice.
Okay, most of them are for Emily. Can you get my slides? I don't have any slides, so this was it. Watch the video, kids. But no, I will. I'm going to paste the links to all 3 visualizations that were included here in the chat. So all of you are welcome to view those. I don't think Brittany's you're currently able to disable, but like I said, Robert's second sheet uses the same functionality as Brittany's. But Brittany's created a separate data source for hers, so it actually Roberts cuts out that step. But both of them are very clever in what they chose to do and showing different ways that you could use annotations to add value and an overlay to your dashboard. And even Ray's the first one, like maybe that's the solution for you. Maybe within your organization, they're needing a higher touch with maybe more specific visuals that you're not able to accomplish within an overlay. That might be something you need to do. It's not the worst. It actually has worked pretty well for a long time, but just be aware that there is an extra challenge that you will have to maintain a separate art file, and it'll have to be accessible for people going forward if they ever need to change it or they'll need to make a brand new one. But yeah, you can use average one, min one, max one, any sort of thing to create a fake chart. I see people talking in the Q&A. Anyone else have any questions?
Have you gauged the performance difference if you're using PowerPoint solution and the annotation solution?
I haven't noticed any difference. I think the most annotations I've had on a page is maybe like 10. And even then it's very light. There's no data source to the data itself, and the annotations don't seem to be a resource hog. So between those two things, I haven't noticed a big difference. Some of the times I've deployed annotations like this, I have left them on by default with the idea being, I know you only use this dashboard for your QBR meetings, so you're going to kind of forget some stuff. And this refresher so that every time you open it, you don't feel anxious and sort of run to me. And then in other cases, I leave it off by default with the idea being these people sort of know this dashboard and are familiar with it. And this is an optional tool. They want to orient someone new to it. So it's really a way for you to stand beside your dashboard without physically having to be there. Because currently we don't have a lot of ways to do that. And many times dashboards might need additional context to fully be realized in terms of functionality.
I think that answers most of the question. One of the pressing question, what's with the voice?
I don't get blessed by God. I don't know. I have a podcast, Data Plus Love, where we just had Matthew Miller, project manager from Tableau, released yesterday, and the previous week Georgia Loopy. So I highly suggest listening in. You'll get to hear this radio voice quite a bit, and I have like 150 episodes. So knock yourself out. Love to have you.
Yeah, people want to hire you as a voice artist as well, so
You're
get in
welcome
touch.
to. Please, I'll do it. Done.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so thank you so much, Zach. This
Thank
was
you.
amazing, and we are going. So much of us are going to implement this in our work and going to ping you and ask you many more questions, I guess. Okay, so we'll move on now. And I need to share my screen again. Okay, so now we have Paula Muñoz. Paula is a data visualization and analytics consultant who is passionate about helping customers transform complex data into strategic business solution. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Electronics Engineering and an MS in Telecommunications System Management, and now she is expanding her expertise by pursuing an MBA at Boston University. Paula recently launched the Tableau Workbook Analyzer App. It's a tool designed to mystify the details of Tableau workbooks, not just data sources, but also calculated fields and the nuances of formatting from font types to sizes and colors. Today, she is going to present and help us give a walkthrough about how to decode Tableau workbooks with the Tableau Workbook Analyzer app. So I'll hand over to Paula and we're going to enjoy the
Awesome.
session.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. And I don't have the CNN voice as Zach does. I wish. But okay. Let me get started and share my screen. And I hope everything goes well because I'm functioning with half of my setup. I was having some technical difficulties, so let me see. I'd like to share screen. Okay. I'm not sure window. I'm sorry, it's giving me some issues here as for screen sharing.
Take your time, Paula. Baby is always tricky.
Right click in your browser's address. Okay, click on my browser address. And okay, let me see. Oof. Share window. Sorry. Zach, do you have any tips here on how to share?
Yes, Zach has 5 tips for LinkedIn. We cannot hear you, Zach.
Share.
That's on
Select,
purpose.
right click in your browser's address and select settings. I don't understand why it's not allowing me to share.
Is she a presenter?
Yes.
Yeah, before it was
Choose.
working for Paula.
Right click in your browser's address bar and select settings for this website. And select as.
Yeah, she has an issue with permission. Is it a resource that we can share for you, Paula? I don't think so, right? Otherwise, we can also do it and you comment.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah. By Windows.
So we
They're
have
probably.
that said that sometimes sharing is sorry, I cannot pronounce the H, hampered by a window that requires action being presented. Make sure you don't have any of those.
Yeah, like a pop-up window or something,
Yeah.
like a blocker.
Yeah, maybe you can see on the browser there on top, there is that rectangle or something.
Choose content to share, and I say window, and then.
Oh, put entire screen. Try with the entire screen.
Yeah, I try both, and it's giving me.
I know that I have a Mac, and sometimes it's like yeah. The Mac are very much secure than Windows. So that's why sometimes we cannot share so easily.
Yeah, I'm on a Mac and like I try both options.
Is this something we can share it for you? Hold on, no.
No, but if you have a Google slide, you can maybe share with us, and we will be your presenter and clicking.
You can
Not
be like,
ideal, but
change the slide now.
exactly that, like I do with you, because I'm not capable of sharing three things at the same time. You know, with the recording, it's already enough. If I have to, and the recording plus LinkedIn Live, I think it's full. Annabelle Ed is finished. So, like, because we have some time now, I can tell you that we will have, like, next month an amazing program. We already have Timea and Agatha that we will speak about Tableau tool for creativity and business dashboard, and we will have like a third presenter too. So I can share with you like the link if in case that you want already to register for the next one. Otherwise, you will continue receiving email from my side. I will put it in the chat. Also, yeah. So I have like to pull Paula again. Yeah. Because each time a presenter leave, I have to give him back the right.
Hello again. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I think now it's
Yes.
giving me options. So
It's working, Paula.
okay, great. I'm so sorry about that.
Don't worry, it's baby. It's baby. Don't worry.
Yeah, let's blame babies.
I will cut this part. I will cut this part in YouTube.
Okay, I do apologize. Yeah, for this, but let's get going. So today, my Tableau Workbook Analyzer app. If you haven't had a chance to look into it, don't worry. You know, you are gonna have a chance to look into it. And if you had already looked into it and had sent me feedback, thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear this tool is useful, and I love hearing your comments and the feedback. So keep those comments going. So let's keep going. So a little bit about myself. I'm just gonna go real quick because I already had a Rachel already presented me, but yes, I'm a data visualization and analytics consultant. I'm originally from Colombia. Any Latinos in the house? Hola a todos, bienvenidos. I'm from Colombia, from Bogota. I have a little bit over 8 years of experience with Tableau, and I just love the tool. It really, you know, empowers, and I don't need to talk about Tableau because all of us here already understand how useful Tableau is. And last but not least, yes, I love studying, and my background is actually in electronics engineering. I just wanted to stop a little bit here because this gives context on why I created this tool. So being in tech as an electronics engineer, I spent the majority of my career in support and operations roles, and I spend my days troubleshooting and fixing issues. So I believe I developed some quite good critical thinking skills, but not only that, being in this environment really helped me understand, or yeah, help me out understanding the value of connecting with the clients so we could provide efficient solutions. So today, when I'm creating a dashboard, it's not just about the visualization itself. It is about like an effective solution. I want to build an effective solution that yes is going to be beautiful, that yes is going to be insightful, is going to answer the user's questions, but I'm also thinking about my future self or the person who is going to be maintaining that tool. And I saw the need of a tool that will help me out with that, because sometimes we are just so busy creating a dashboard that we forget the little things as am I naming my worksheets correctly? Do I have typos? Did I maybe connect to multiple data sources and at the end I'm only using one of them? And we just forget and we leave all these things hanging in there. So I saw the need for a tool that could help me out, like be more efficient and will help me out maintaining my workbooks. So let's talk about Tableau. We know Tableau is a powerful tool. It allows us to make beautiful and insightful visualizations. But when the projects grow in complexity, it becomes difficult to start navigating through like big Tableau workbooks. And that's when the Tableau Analyzer app comes into play. I built it thinking with the user in mind. Just help the users understand their workbooks, understand the calculated fields, be able to troubleshoot your Tableau workbooks as fast as possible. As a side note, I built this tool in R and Flex Dashboard Shiny. I really love R as well. Not as much as I love Tableau, but R is a nice tool to learn. And to be honest, it's the first app I ever built. So I was quite surprised when I started receiving all these messages from people like, oh, wow, this is wonderful, because it's the first app I have ever built. So I know, I'm not a coder, I'm not a software developer, but I built it to make sure that it was going to help Tableau users. Like I understood what the Tableau users needed, and that's what I implement on the tool. When I was starting to put the presentation together, I thought about 4 particular use cases of how this tool can help you in your day-to-day job. So one is inheriting complex projects. I know everybody has been there. We received these huge Tableau workbooks and we don't understand them. We have to spend some time understanding how many calculated fields it has, which worksheets go into what dashboard, and it could be time consuming. And many times we don't receive documentation. As Emily said, like documentation is not as, like no one wants to create documentation, but when it comes to trying to understand something new, it's really helpful. So my tool serves as that manual that didn't exist before. The second use case, and all these use cases are interconnected. So for example, handling large scale workbooks. Like how many of you, like I'm guilty of this, how many of you have created workbooks that are like 40, 50 or 60 or more worksheets? Like sometimes I end up with those huge dashboards and workbooks because we create a dashboard and then we have multiple worksheets, we hide the worksheets, and we really like don't realize how big these dashboards become until you have to like come back and like fix something and you are trying to figure out like which worksheet goes where. Like at that point it becomes a little bit difficult. So my tool is going to be like that index, because it's going to tell you which worksheets belong to what dashboard or what fields are being used in what worksheets or dashboards. It's like an index. The next use case will be troubleshooting and optimization. So again, with the famous calculated fields, we create all these calculated fields and sometimes like nested calculated fields. And it becomes a little bit difficult sometimes to try to troubleshoot something because you know that one calculated field is using another calculated field, but in Tableau you can only like right click on one calculated field, see the formula, and then you realize, oh, okay, this is using this other calculated field, so you have to go and search for the other one, and then yeah, it could become a little bit complex. My tool is going to help you troubleshoot these issues because you're going to be able to download all the calculated fields that are being used in your dashboard. The next use case is dashboard recreation. Sometimes, for example, companies are migrating from an on-premise database to cloud database. So this will be a good scenario. It's going to help you with that transition. Or another scenario is, for example, you want to use one of the amazing dashboards being built by the Tableau community and being published in Tableau Public. Like, thank you so much if you have created one of these dashboards because I use them. I always get inspired by these business dashboards. They are awesome. So if you want to try to incorporate an existing dashboard, my tool is gonna help you with that like transition and kind of mapping the fields. So I'm just gonna skip over this. I'm gonna be sending these slides, but pretty much this is a way to say like the same thing I said before, but instead of like questions, like what are the questions and answers that you can find with my tool. But I'm gonna skip over this so we can actually demo the tool. So let me just close my PowerPoint. So the first thing that you need to do is to have a Tableau workbook. Today, as an example, I'm gonna use one of my like really old dashboards. I created this back in 2019. I believe I made some updates in 2022. Nothing fancy here, but you just need to have a dashboard and you download it. And then you wanna open up your Tableau workbook. What is important is that you use a TWB file. It's not the package workbook. It is gonna be the TWB without the data. I'm just gonna give a different name to this so we know it's the one we're using for the demo. And here is our dashboard. Nothing fancy in there. So what we want to do is we want to jump into the tool itself, the application, and this is the link which I'm gonna be sharing. So I'm just going to reload it. And the first thing that you want to do is you want to load your TWB file. You are going to browse, and I'm actually going to do demo, this one, the demo one. And this is going to take a little bit or some time to load, depending on how big your workbook is. It could take longer because remember, I'm parsing calculated fields, I'm parsing information about the fonts, the colors. It could take some time to parse that data out. So this is the first screen, and what it's gonna do is gonna give you a quick summary of your Tableau workbook. You have your workbook name, you have the count of how many fields are in your workbook, and high-level information, how many are used, how many are not used, and then it starts to get into more details, like what is the data source that is used. So I'm using this color coding, like blue means these are the things that are used in the dashboard. This orange peach color are things that are not used. And I use this throughout the application so you know what is used or not used. If I had another data source that I wasn't using, it would have shown up here. But in this case, I only have one data source. Here is going to tell you the tables. If you are connecting to, for example, a Snowflake, is going to give you information about like the schema and the table name, things like that. Then it's going to give you detail of your worksheets. And for example, here, I'm already spotting some issues with my worksheets, like for example, the names. And I don't know of you, but to me, like when I was in the dashboard, maybe I not even noticed it. But now it's really clear to me that there are some issues with the worksheet name. So seeing the information this way is kind of already telling me, oh, you need to do something about that. So I know I want to go back and fix this. Then it's giving me information about the dashboard name. In this case, I only have one dashboard. If I scroll down a little bit, now it's going to give me distribution of the fields by the role, meaning are these dimensions, how many of them are dimensions, how many of them are measures, and how many of them are being used versus unused. The same with the field type. I broke it down by raw variables or original fields, calculated fields, and parameters. For example, like raw variables, I wouldn't be able to control if I'm not using them. You know, I can hide them, but calculated fields, I can do something about that. I can I can delete those calculated fields that are not being used. So here I'm starting to understand, okay, there are 7 calculated fields that I could potentially delete. If I scroll down a bit, now it's going to give us some information, the fields that are being used, the field name, and also highlighting which ones are calculated fields versus raw variables, and how many times they are being used in the dashboard. So on the left side, we have the fields that I use. On the right-hand side, the fields that are not used. So these are the ones that at some point I want to do something about, like probably delete these calculated fields. If I scroll down a bit, now I have the network, field dependencies network or table. I originally only had the table, but this was one of the feedbacks I received when I launched the tool. Someone mentioned, oh, it would be nice to have a network. When I have a small dashboard like this one with not as many fields, it's easy to understand the network. When your workbook becomes really big, it could be a little bit difficult, but this is kind of nice, and you can like play around with this network. But pretty much what it's saying is, for example, a status. The status field is being used in this asymmetric sub-status, and it's also being used in label. And then this asymmetric status seems to be the field that is used the most, and that's why the bubble is bigger. So this is the first screen. Before I move into the next screen, I want to start taking some actions in my dashboard. So the first thing I want to do is I want to clean up these worksheet names. So I'm going to launch my Tableau workbook. I'm going to unhide my sheets and just quickly start fixing this. Here I want to maybe say top 10 enrollments by condition. And then in here, I believe enrollments by status and year. So. And actually want to save this with a different name. I'm gonna give it demo updated. So when we reload it, we can see the updates. So we did the first cleanup process. I'm gonna hide my sheets again. Now let's go back to the tool and let's move on to the next step, which is calculated fields. And I believe this is the most powerful part. Like when I built it, I really built it just for this. That's what I was thinking initially, but then I started to realize that I could add more things like the summary and the formatting. But this is like the heart of the application. Here you have the list of all your field names. On top, you are going to find the ones that are being used. And again, you have your color coding for calculated fields, raw fields, and here you can see your actual formulas, calculated formulas. This table is customizable. You can filter it, like let's say I only want to see the fields that are used. Or only you want to see just the calculated fields. But the most important thing here is that you can add columns to this table. For example, you can add this original field name. Like, I don't know if you are aware, but when you are creating calculated fields in the back end, Tableau is giving these weird long names like calculation and big numbers. Or if you are duplicating a field, like for example, I was duplicating, like I did right click on a sponsor and I created a sponsor 2, and maybe I created a formula with that. In the back end, like maybe I gave the name of a sponsor 2, but in the back end, that field is called something like a copy of a sponsor or a sponsor copy. And I don't know if you have experienced this, but sometimes Tableau gives you, oops, what happened to my tool? Sometimes Tableau gives you these errors, and when it's referencing the field, is referencing that original field instead of referencing the field that you created. So adding that original field name is really powerful when troubleshooting issues. So I'm just gonna reload my application. I don't know if maybe someone is testing the app while I'm giving the demo. Yeah, yes. I'm not sure what's going on here. Like, I don't know if too many people are maybe joining. Let's see, browse.
Yeah, you're victim of your success, Paula. Everyone
Everyone is, yeah, like the tool broke because everyone is trying the tool right now.
Everyone is very excited. Huh? You will see the comment later. Very love.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here is the table, and then you can export this table. So you can either copy CSV, but you can say Excel, and right away it's going to give you this table. Let me make it bigger for you. And I'm going to show you the process that I usually use when I'm troubleshooting with my tool. The first thing that I do is I put a filter on my fields. And obviously, I want to clean up my workbook. I want to get rid of those unused calculated fields. But before I delete them, I really want to know what they are all about, like instead of blindly just deleting them. So what I do is I filter for unused fields, and then I also filter, I remove the raw variables because I cannot do anything with that. Now I can clearly see, at once all my formulas, and now I feel more confident if I'm gonna be deleting my formulas or my calculated fields, at least I know what they are. And I have a copy in case I, decide to delete something and then realize that I have to put it back. I have kind of my backup. So let me go back to my Tableau workbook and let's do some cleanup here. So let me put this side by side. Let me open up a worksheet. And now you can use Tableau's feature of like hiding the fields. So you can say hide all unused fields, show hidden fields. And now what I have in here as hidden should match what I have in my workbook. But you know, obviously you could skip the step of downloading my Tableau workbook and just hiding and showing again. But the drawback is that if you are just deleting, you don't know what you are deleting. Now, at least you know when you have the Excel file, what that's about. Now I can click on calculations and then I can, you know, probably go in order, like, you know, say for example, column divider, and then columns, and then I have the index, the number of records, one, row divider. So now, yeah, the same calculated fields that I have here are the ones that Tableau was telling me that I could delete. So I'm gonna delete them, and I'm also gonna delete this parameter that I'm not using at all. Delete and save. So that I took care of my calculated fields and use calculated fields, and I'm feeling much better because my workbook is starting to look cleaner. Now let's go back to the tool. The last option here is about formatting. It's gonna tell you what fonts are being used and the different font sizes that are being used. Something that I have received feedback on and I haven't had the time to implement, and I'm not sure how feasible it is, but people has requested that instead of just showing the font sizes or font colors, to kind of give an idea where these font sizes or font colors are being used. Because right now it's just telling you these are the different font sizes and font colors, but you have to like go back and, you know, figure out where these different fonts are being used. So here on top is for fonts. Here on the bottom is about colors. It's gonna give you the hex colors for the fonts, and then the hex colors for your marks. And it's gonna give you this table. You could like copy the hex table, like copy and then paste. Or if you want to create your own palette, I put it in the format that is used in the preferences file. So if you click on this downloaded properties for file format, you click on that. Now it's going to show in the format that you need for your preferences file. You give it your custom palette name, or if you want to delete some of them, you can, you know, delete it and just update your preferences file. So now coming back to my dashboard, let's say I want to do some cleanup. Again, it's more difficult when it comes to the formatting because I'm not specifying where the font names or font colors are used. But something that you can do is if you go into format, workbook, and maybe just pick a consistent, I'm gonna say Arial. I'm gonna pick Arial and just try to do some of the cleanup through here. I can say instead of being 9, just thinking of accessibility, let's make these fonts instead of, you know, 10 or 9, let's make them a little bit bigger. Maybe in here is fine. And then what else can I do? If I go here, I can make these smaller. Oops. Yeah, let's do 15. Just try to be more consistent throughout the dashboard. 15. And yeah, this is just a demo. So I'm going to save my updates and let's reload the application. Let's see how it looks now that I have made some updates to the workbook. So I'm gonna browse and I'm going to upload this one, the updated one. Let's open that up. It's thinking. Yep. I hope it's gonna load at some point. Yeah, okay, here he is. Okay, my worksheets are looking nicer. My name, I have names in there. As far as the unused fields, now the only unused fields are the raw variables, which makes sense. Under calculated fields, not much difference here other than displaying only the raw variables that are not used. In here, I have hidden some of the fields. There is an option to add the field hidden flag if you wanted to. So now in here, for example, because I did hide my unused fields, now it's showing that a flag for these fields are hidden. And then if I go to formatting, now only one font name, the Arial, and then font sizes. Yeah, that will take more work. You will have to go through the workbook and try to update it. But yeah, I guess that's the end of the demo. Any questions? Any comments? Do we have any questions? Yes. Okay. Let's look at here. Okay. And let's see which one, because I see questions for the previous presenters.
You have to go up until the beginning. So, for instance, is there a file size limit to the workbook that you can upload?
Yeah, there is some. Yes, there is some limitation. I forgot because I built this long time ago, but I do remember putting a limit for how big it was. I'm sorry, I can check later on and give you the exact size. But yes, there is some limit. But so far, the workbooks that I have tested, they all have loaded with no problem.
There is some question also about security, but because I think that you upload only the TWB, not the
exactly. Yeah, and that's a great question. A lot of people have that question. And yes, let's first remember that the TWB files don't have data on it. It's only metadata, like the data of, of how exactly what I'm presenting here. The calculated fields, the font names, everything that is in this XML, because behind the scenes, the Tableau Workbook is an XML file. So it doesn't have any data at all. As far as the application, it is being hosted in this shinyapps.io. This is something similar to the Tableau Public for Tableau. Right now, this is the free tier. But again, I'm not like, no one is saving any data anywhere. Like as soon as I close, like everything is in memory. As soon as this application is closed, everything goes away. No data is being saved in any server or anything like that. I'm not storing any of that, and Shiny Apps is not storing any of that. As this is in memory, and as soon as this gets closed, it goes away. Let's see how. I know these are TWP, imagine IP issues for these dashboards handling. Yeah, again, it's not my server, it's in shinyapps.io. Paula, do aliases for raw fields export with the data too? If you mean, that's a good question now, because I know what you mean. When you go and you do an alias, I will have to test that out. That's a good comment. I'm pretty sure it is stored somewhere in the XML file. I will have to test it out how it is actually handled in the application. I don't. I'm pretty sure that may be safe on a different field. I will check it out. What else do we have in here? It's been decision how to handle dashboard, Tableau Press.
So for instance, how many users can use the tool at the same time? That's a very tricky question. Huh?
Yeah, I'm in the because I'm offering this for free. Like I'm not like this was built for the community. You know, originally it was just for me. Like I created it to help my job easier, but then I just started to share it with some of members of the community to see if they saw some value, and they were like, wow, yeah, you should share this. So I'm offering this for free. I'm not like, charging or anything. So I'm in the free tier of shinyapps.io, and I believe there is a limit, like 5 users or something. I will have to like check it out. Like
that's already very nice, Paula.
Yeah.
We cannot do too much. So you had like some on the chat. They said that you should sell the tool to Salesforce. I think it will be good because it's exactly for instance, documentation. Of course, for improving the dashboard, for documentation, this tool is amazing, I will say.
Right.
You had some suggestion also on the tool, and I will also give you maybe some idea when you don't have anything else to do and you want to implement it again.
Exactly. Right.
Let's go back to our program, I think, and we will share with you obviously the link to the tool and every resource that Paula wants to share. We will also share, and that is also valid for all our panelists.
Yeah, and if you log into the app, I have a feedback form here, and it's so nice when people write in here and send me messages. Like every week I'm receiving messages of people saying, oh, thank you so much, this is time saver, or just ideas. I really love hearing from everybody. Yeah. If you don't know where the app is, I have here a link to the app and a QR code. If you want to just grab it, that's the link and that's the QR code.
And I will share the link by email, in LinkedIn, and in YouTube also, so don't worry, you will have it. Prasam, do you want to conclude this beautiful session before I lose completely my voice?
Yeah. Yes. I see John was asking, is your app organizing all the XML code in the workbook to put the summaries together? Exactly. That's what I did. Walking the tree of the XML and, pretty much grabbing, the data sources, like in the order that I show it in my application. That's the order that I use behind the scenes. Like first I started pulling the data sources, then I search for the workbook, like worksheet names, then the fields, then the calculated fields, because all of them are stored in different places. So yes, I had to walk the tree one by one, and then started to make some joins when it was necessary.
I think so many users are just getting there and trying to use it. People are getting it's unavailable.
Yeah, if it breaks, it's because it's in the free tier. Yeah.
Oh, so
when it's free, don't complain. It's always
exactly, and yeah. Yes, Shiny Apps is a programming in R. That's right. John was just reading from John. Shiny Apps is a way to create dashboards, and the language used is R.
Oh.
Okay, well, I think that's all. My apologies for the technical difficulties, but yeah, that's all I had to share today with you.
That's totally fine. And I think this is quite amazing. Like altogether, a tool, what it offers. Plus, it's all your hard work. And the benefit is it's not fee gated. You can use it. You're trying to use it too much, so that's why
It
it's not.
breaks.
It breaks. like, like maybe like you can put a price tag that will help
At some point,
at
maybe,
some
yeah,
point.
but this was like my side project, my pet project, and like have so many things going on, work, studies. Yeah, so once you put a price tag, you are committed to fixing the bugs or implementing the things. So
Don't listen to this monetary concern.
yeah,
Voilà. Keep
like
it free
I'm
and
so
simple.
happy just to hear from people saying, that they are using it and it's making their job easier. That for me, like, it's already paying me. It's already making me happy.
I think that's great. I used it as well. I saw it on
Oh,
LinkedIn.
nice.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
and I think one thing I didn't did which I'm going to do is use it more and see if I can provide some feedback. I didn't do it, so that I'll do. And also, I'll recommend everyone to please put in the feedback because that will help Paula to upgrade it as well and
Right.
also help all of us. So I think it's
Exactly.
a great tool and it's required out there because it's a big trouble when you have to document the process. You have to keep a track of what all calculations are there, and this will essentially help in inheritance as well. That really
Exactly.
troubles the new users who come into the industry and they are like horrified with the nested calculations and many things that goes on inside the dashboard. So I think that was pretty amazing and we learned a lot from here. Thank you so much, Paula. Thank you so much for taking us through this amazing
See,
tool that you have
they
built.
broke it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure because many people, I don't know how many are we in here in the call, and everybody's trying it at once. Yeah, at some point it's gonna become available again.
Guys, take a deep sleep, come back
Hmm.
today, and then use it. Okay,
Right.
that's what I'll recommend.
I can probably see here the usage, and maybe this is interesting to you. Let's see. No, my GitHub. Um, yeah, no, I don't have my
That's
credentials in here, but
You will tell me,
yeah.
and I will add it on the email. Don't worry,
yeah.
Paula.
Don't worry, Paula. I think Annabelle always keep things in order, so we don't have to worry about. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I think it was great to have all of you here. So many conversations. I could see I couldn't stop my eyes following all those conversations. That was pretty amazing today. We learned about resource planning. We learned about how we can enable dashboards. We saw the other side of the enablement. We saw that awesome how you can hack your dashboard and not use just images and use annotations for overlays. And then finally, we also came back to understanding how to use this amazing tool to optimize your dashboards and also document the process. So I think that was pretty amazing. And it was quite great to have all of you here and have all these conversations. And see you next month. I'm going to share this link with you. Please go ahead and register and see you next week with more amazing sessions. I think we have a packed session as well around dashboards and storytelling. That's going to be a blast. So I'm going to share this in the chat box itself. And I hope you all have a great day and you all enjoyed the session. Thank you so much, guys.
Yep. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.